This is neither a pro-Turkey Tom video nor an anti-Turkey Tom video, okay? This is a pro-me figuring out what the fuck is going on video. People much more pretentious than me have called Twitter the modern-day town square, and currently there is a hurricane going on in the town square. And in that hurricane, flying about 80 feet in the air, there's about 1,000 paper boys, half of whom are saying, extra, extra, Turkey Tom is an evil, abusive, potential, and the other half are saying, extra, extra, Turkey Tom allegations, big old nothing burger. Nothing burger of the century. A lot of people are starting to tune in on it. Ms. Kiff uploaded a video which just cleanly hit that 8-minute mark for the double ad rolls. Good job, Ms. Kiff. And parodies Turkey Tom's thumbnail and title of when he covered Ms. Kiff being canceled 2 months ago, as if Ms. Kiff had even one fat tubby leg to stand on in this situation. And if you're anything like me, you started clicking through the rabbit hole and were pretty quickly frustrated. The thing that is frustrating me is just the general coverage of this story. The reason I think the coverage is so confusing is because the rollout, I guess, for lack of a better term, of these allegations was extremely messy. In addition to that, the platform of choice for the allegations was Kiwi Farms, which, if you know anything about Kiwi Farms, that's a weird place to start. Important to note, the primary girl, who goes by Sacramento, has said that she is talking to a lawyer about all of this stuff, which I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal expert. But doing that and going on Kiwi Farms to do a tell-all simultaneously, usually not a winning legal strategy. Not very advised. Now, I'll get into spoilers right away. There are, to me, some questionable things about some of the allegations. I'm not saying that to discredit anyone's testimony. In my view, the fairest way to approach all of this stuff is to stress test all sides with the same amount of integrity. In other words, you're going to see me tearing down a lot of claims which I consider to be either too flimsy or outright irrelevant, and I'm doing that so that I can shift focus to the claims which I do feel like are relevant. So if you want to skip right to the ones I consider to be the heaviest claims, the most relevant claims, you can go to the timestamp that I'm going to throw on screen. If you want to see my final thoughts, you can go to the end of the video, which is also on screen. Please don't watch like 10 minutes of this video and feel like you know where I am, because I feel like this case demands a decent amount of attention to detail. Now, the allegations have been brought forth by two girls who go by Sacramento and Katie. Both of these people say they dated Turkey Tom at some point in time. There are elements where their stories bear some similarities. Those areas where they bear similarities are the strongest and the most important allegations. Unfortunately, I feel like they bog those down, bury them even in a bunch of very frivolous and pointless other details. So I'm going to start with the introduction of the allegations and the more frivolous ones, and then get into what I consider to be the ones that are a little tighter knit. So just know that if you watch halfway through this video, you're going to get me going over the worst points being brought up, and towards the end, it's going to be the more serious stuff. All that to say, I feel like this situation should involve a lot of care and scrutiny, and we're working with limited information, so if you click off the video halfway through, you're certainly not going to have like a great idea of where I end up on this. That too, as I mentioned before, is kind of also a big part of why I'm making this video. I'm kind of frustrated with the general internet's response to this situation. I feel like it's getting kind of drama slopified a little bit, and I'm going to try to do the opposite of that. I'm going to attempt to do the opposite of that in this video. Really, there are two primary sources right now. One is a very long, extensive Kiwi Farms thread involving both Sacramento and Katie. A YouTuber by the name of Perk30 did a pretty extensive review of that thread and also put in some helpful censoring there, so I'll be referencing his video for a lot of this. I do also have some criticisms of his coverage of this, but that's not really what I'm going to focus on so much as the story itself. And then additionally, both Katie and Sacramento sat down for a Discord interview with a YouTuber by the name of Mad at the Internet. Turkey Tom also has yet to respond as of the making of this video.
Hi, Kiwi people. I dated Tom a few months after meeting him on Tinder. I'm not super into internet stuff and had no idea what Kiwi Farms was, but this page was always his #1 search Safari thing that pops up on iPhone when he went to Google something. When I asked about the website, he got super defensive and weird about it, so I obviously looked into it and found all of this crazy stuff, like him admitting he's bi. He messaged the owner of the website, Joshua Moon, to get the code to post here. Basically, I started to get suspicious about all the e-girls he's followed / interacted with, and he started raging at me. He also lied to me at first about the fact he does YouTube. He did some crazy stuff like kicked holes in the wall at a house he was renting because some e-girl who copies Belle Delphine got hacked, and the quote hacker was blackmailing him with his pics. He continued to talk with her after the fact. I have screenshots confirming all of this, attached a couple, but I think I have more. This guy is a real freak and likes to record encounters, X-rated encounters, without asking first during almost every time. I know for the fact he's done this to at least one other girl. Serial, quote, gooner, and has flown out several e-girls to sleep with. He told me he has a file on his computer called, quote, just in case. That's basically voice memos or calls from his exes to blackmail them with in case they ever said something about him. Thought I would get the message out and confirm y'all's suspicions. Also, if this gets out, to warn any other young women in the Texas area about this dude.
All right, so that was a lot, and I'll get into some of the stuff that she references there. The first thing that struck me as really odd is, why is this happening on Kiwi Farms, especially given that she says she doesn't even really have any familiarity with this site. She's posting on it because he saw he would post on it. That to me is strange. In addition to that, and this is something the people who run Kiwi Farms have spoken on, Kiwi Farms is kind of in a lockdown right now, so she had to email someone to get a code to create an account specifically for making this post. So it's really strange why she would go here and go through all of the effort to go here as opposed to Twitter. She never really provides any clarification on that. There are also some really odd details about her story that she does get pressed on within the thread that I feel like she doesn't really give a satisfactory answer towards. We will get into that as well in a bit. Now, there are a variety of ways in which I feel like she is kind of undermining her own story by pressing on certain details or trying to imply things without saying them, which kind of fall apart after further inspection. There is more tangible, concrete stuff that, again, kind of gets buried here. We'll get to that later on. She makes mention of the fact that he, quote, lied to her about doing YouTube, and brings this up throughout the thread, trying to kind of paint him as someone who is acting sketchy and seedy. However, after being pressed on this several times, she brings up that on their first date, he talked about doing YouTube. So it was really just in between matching on Tinder and whatever conversations happened before their first date that he wasn't forthcoming about that, which I feel like that's pretty normal behavior if you're pretty prevalent and known on certain internet circles. You may not be comfortable just advertising that to strangers that you match with on dating apps. That actually sounds like the most normal thing to do, given that people might screenshot your profile and shit for clout. It's just not fun to have that just like shared everywhere. Speaking of which, in the screenshots that Sacramento supplies to the thread to prove that she did date Turkey Tom, she includes a screenshot of them matching on Tinder, which is strange because she says she didn't know who he was, and he hid the fact that he was a big YouTuber from her until their first date, which apparently is a big deal. So she didn't know who he was, but she screenshotted him the second they matched on Tinder. Somebody in the thread asks her, why would you do this? And she kind of skirts around the question.
Were you aware of who he was before you started dating, seeing as you screenshotted your Tinder match? Like, what did his bio say about what he did for a living? I didn't connect the dots about who he was till after. His bio was blank. I might have said something about videographer. His Tinder profile was mostly just pictures of him flexing, usually his phone covering his face.
Now, I totally get that some people do screenshot their matches on the apps for safety reasons, especially a lot of women. However, screenshotting someone's profile before you go out to meet them and screenshotting the one screen that pops up for 10 seconds on Tinder when you first match with them, that never comes back, by the way. Those are two different things, and it's very weird that it would be the latter. You'd think if this was a normal woman screenshotting something for safety reasons, it would be after they'd talked, screenshots the profile that had some information on it. That wasn't the case here. This is something I talked about with my chat when we were researching this situation. Like, you matched with them. You don't need to screenshot that. The only reason you screenshot that is if it's like a notable thing that you want to post somewhere, meaning you know that the person is like publicly noteworthy. To me, there is no good explanation for that, given this person's testimony so far. I usually end up with screenshots of people I matched with, then go out with for safety plus visual aid if I'm telling friends about it. So on the female end, some of y'all will just if you match with someone, will you just immediately screenshot it just for safety? I also do that. I'm a guy. I've never done that once. Yes. Okay. Maybe I jumped the gun on that point then. But do you but here's an important question. Do you screenshot the second you match with them, like that screenshot was on the green page, or do you screenshot after you've like had, a couple days worth of conversations or whatever it is with them? Do you screenshot immediately on matching, or do you screenshot like after you've had a conversation and you're like, yeah, let's go get drinks or whatever? I feel like it would be the latter, no? Because if I, like, in my experience on the apps, like, bunch of fucking people just match for the dopamine boost and then never even fucking talk. Only if things click. So somebody said when they screenshot the second they match, most people are saying once things click, which makes sense to me. So I guess it's plausible that she would have screenshotted the second they matched. I don't understand even like why someone would do that, especially if you're a chick and you're worried about safety and stuff, and you want to like send someone, someone's record to your fucking homeboys or homegirls and be like, yo, I'm going out with this person. If I disappear, there you go. That makes sense, but it makes sense. It would be a screenshot of like their profile after you've matched with them and have talked to them already, which would be a different screenshot than we saw. As a female, we get like 200 matches a day. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 100%. Like, especially as a female, the fact that you matched with somebody on Tinder that you don't know is famous, and mind you, no offense to Turkey Tom, he's a handsome fellow, but he's not like Henry Cavill or anything. It's not like a trophy. Like, can you believe I matched with this 9-foot-tall Amazonian Giga Chad? You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, I'm glad we've introduced some nuance here, but I hope you guys still understand my reservations about this whole match screenshot business. Because also, even if it were for safety, you would still want it to be of their profile, not of the We Matched screen. Because their profile provides a lot more information. The We Matched screen provides like a tiny circular picture of them. It still really strikes me wrong. Finally, she was asked about this in the interview she did, and I don't know, her response kind of hits me with an orb of confusion. I don't really understand. Again, I'm not saying any of this to undermine the allegations. We're going to get to the stuff that I feel is a little more tight-knit later on, but I'm just really confused about it, and I'm confused as to why this is such impossible puzzle to put together. But I don't know. You can be the judge, I guess.
One of the things that a lot of people who are on his side, like in the YouTube sphere, said is that you had a screenshot of you matching with Tom. And they said that was strange because in your story, you said you did not know him before you met up, but you took a picture of the match. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I took a picture of the match because I could kind of tell there was like something weird about this guy. Like, I didn't know if he was famous or whatever. And also, I did that to other people as well on Tinder.
Just like everybody you matched with to like gossip with, like girlfriends?
Yeah, like a couple of them. But yeah, he seemed like kind of weird. So I took pictures of our match.
What about his like bio was like, oh, I gotta document this in case I go missing or something? Like, what stood out as weird?
He was like covering his face a lot in the pictures, and there was something really off about him. So yeah.
Again, I will reiterate that a lot of this story really, really gets bogged down by really pointless, frivolous, stupid shit. And if there is truth to this story that like it's hurting the story that that's the case, and that's frustrating to me. So for instance, probably the worst point that she brings up is him punching a hole in the wall. She brings this up in her opening first initial post to the Kiwi Farms thread, the thrust of which was, hey, I just want to warn people in the Texas area about this guy, right? Implying that he's a dangerous person. She says, he did some crazy shit like kicked holes in a wall at a house he was renting because some e-girl who copies Belle Delphine got hacked and the hacker was blackmailing him with dick pics. Now, to me, the pretty obvious implication of including that in that opening statement is to imply that he's crazy, he's violent, potentially physically abusive. But there's a big difference between punching a hole in the wall because you're having an argument with a girl and punching a hole in the wall because you're being sextorted, because you're a victim of a sex crime. What's more, we find out much, much, much later in the thread that she wasn't even there when the hole was punched in the wall.
Please drop any photos you have, perhaps around his house, photos of the holes he punched in his walls, any evidence of violence. Sorry to sound pushy, but this is basically essential at this point. He showed me the holes in his wall IRL on FaceTime, but didn't get a picture. Frowny face. He told me he was paying the owner of the house he was renting to get them fixed. LOL, I can send pictures inside of his gamer room.
Sacramento also spends a pretty extensive amount of time building the case that Tom is into age play, which is, obviously very controversial, and a lot of people would consider that to be a level of degeneracy that is a bit too far. However, most of her proof around this surrounds his romantic involvement at one time with a girl who is described as a Belle Delphine type.
Someone asks, has he ever dated any of those age play girls? I saw him follow a couple a while ago. The girl he sent meat pics to and got hacked was an age play / Belle Delphine type of girl. I sent the screenshots about the blackmailer guy here earlier. He told me he was to meet up with her, but was too weirded out and went back home.
Notably, though, in the very screenshots that she provides as evidence of this whole situation, Tom is explicitly saying that the whole kitty, childish vibe that this girl puts on is a little off-putting to him.
More proof, girl he sent pictures to was an age player. Like, bruh, I don't even know what you're saying to me. She looks like a crazy person, dresses like a child. It's weird. It's okay, though. I agree, she is weird and disturbed. I don't know what to say. I was taking anything at that time. I have Gooner mutuals with her, unfortunately. I'm just a little creeped out, but that's okay. I also got creeped out, and she was nuts, so I stopped talking to her. The genre of women are demons. Every one of those types I've met, actually messed me up. I was friends with her for a while, and she was insane and messed me over. Yeah, well, this chick is insane too. I feel bad for how bad her mind is, so shrugging emoji. She dresses like a kid, so I think it's weird. No offense. Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Now, in the interview, both Katie and Sacramento used the fact that Tom had purchased really kawaii-type gifts for them, specifically Kuromi, which is like a Hello Kitty type thing, as evidence that he was, I guess, into age play and wanted the girls he was with to be, I guess, childlike.
Okay, so he was trying to find another who was into, I guess, age play. I mean, I don't want to just jump to that and say he's definitely looking for age play, but Monster High is
definitely.
I don't want to say put the words out like that, but also at the same time, I mean, if you're looking for a bitch who's into dolls and Hello Kitty and Velcro children's shoes, then
yeah, that's in the kids aisle at Walmart. This is the Monster High stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So he would. I mean, that's what I was asking for. Did he give you clothes that was this is saccharine light pastels and stuff?
Yes, for my birthday gift, he bought me a whole bunch of Hello Kitty type stuff. In some of the pictures of the age player lolicon girl, Ellie, she's wearing these Hello Kitty pajamas, and he bought me those exact same type of pajamas and other stuffed animals, stuff like that. Yeah.
But did you feel that the gifts, clothing and toys and stuff, were weird, or did it feel?
Yes.
Okay, it did.
Yes.
All of it, the clothes too. It was this is weird.
Yes, because I never expressed any interest in I love Hello Kitty and I want more Hello Kitty stuff.
Now, notably in the Kiwi Farms thread, she actually brought up the Hello Kitty, you know, the Kuromi gifts as something that she was excited about, or at least appeared to be excited about in a text conversation with her friend.
I pictured the stuff in a message I sent to my friend about, and the message says, okay, I can call you in a little whenever you're free. Yes, just call whenever I'm in the car. Okay. OMG, I need to hear about Tom stuff. He made me so mad, so bad. But he said he got me Kuromi stuff for my birthday. Oh my goodness, girl. He really the king of mixed signals.
Now, you could maybe say she was just happy that she was getting gifts in general, okay? Maybe that's what was going on there. Does feel like it's a little bit of conflicting information, but you could give one the benefit of the doubt. Overall, I think just he bought me kawaii stuff, therefore he's like an Ageplay quasi pedophile type creep. I feel like that is really flimsy and just bogs down this whole thing in a way that's unnecessary. Before getting to what I would consider to be the actual important claims, I just want to overview briefly the claims that were so absurd, I won't really give any time to them here. So, for instance, we spent a decent amount of time, both in the thread and the interview, discussing whether or not Turkey Tom is bisexual.
A big question a lot of people had, there's been speculation that he's bisexual because he's made weird comments about finding men attractive on his streams. Did he ever come across as like hetero-flexible or anything like that?
I say yes, in the sense that, like, for one, he said that weird thing about Destiny to me, and he was like hella obsessed with Destiny at that time.
That to me kind of makes a mockery of this whole situation. How the fuck is that relevant to anything? It doesn't help that the person conducting the interview does clearly seem to be kind of drama farming the situation a little bit.
On that note, did he ever talk shit about any of his YouTube friends? In particular, Nicholas Diorio. Did he ever say, I hate that guy?
No, I can't even remember him ever talking about someone named Nick or Nicholas.
Yeah, not really.
How big was his penis?
Oh my god.
Oh my
guys.
god. Come on.
What's that? You were abused, you say? Well, I just have one question for you. How big was your abuser's penis? There was also some time spent discussing the possibility that Destiny might have been wearing a butt plug while he was around Turkey Tom. What are the words coming out of my mouth right now? It's exactly this sort of tomfoolery that I think has been so frustrating about these particular allegations, or at least it has been to me. Going through the thread, there's even a portion in which the topic of discussion is what fucking bands Turkey Tom likes to listen to. So now that I've carved through some of the bullshit, let me be very clear about what the actual heavy allegations are. In my view, there are two primary allegations. One is that Turkey Tom, with his exes, would film adult encounters without permission. And two, that in most adult encounters that these girls had with Tom, he was very rough in ways that were unhealthy and damaging, to put it lightly. We'll get into exactly what that means. Now, for the first of these allegations, the filming without permission, let's go into that opening statement again. So Sacramento had said, this guy is a real freak and likes to record encounters without asking first during almost every time. I know for a fact he's done this to at least one other girl. And that's all we get in the beginning. Now, that is incredibly vague. What does that mean? What were the dynamics of that? Are we talking about a fucking secret hidden camera here? Further on in the thread, she talks about it more, and she opens up by saying, I'm not alleging anything illegal happened. So, mind you, that this is the second most heavy of the allegations in my view. Now, the second is heavier in nature, and I'll be spending the bulk of the time on that. This one very much plays second fiddle to that, so keep that in mind.
I'm not alleging anything illegal or saying it was revenge X-rated material or anything. What I meant was he wouldn't ask before and proceed to take his phone out mid-session actively to film. I sometimes wouldn't notice till like 15 to 30 seconds after he started filming. I have no idea if this is illegal or not, but yeah, he wouldn't ask before, reached out to an ex-girlfriend of his. He would do the same thing to her.
Now, the detriment of a lot of this row of allegations to me has been both girls involved are far too ambiguous, about these situations. Obviously, something like this begs a ton of follow-up questions. Well, what was your relationship like? Was it one in which that was an expected component of these encounters? Did you say, hey, don't fucking do that? In the interview, the same girl details asking Tom to send her the videos he took, which that adds a new interesting level of detail to this. Because if your partner is taking videos of you during these encounters, and then you are asking for the videos to be shared with you, I feel that that would be very strong implicit consent of the practice of taking said videos. However, there is other odd things going on here.
And what really concerned me about this is that I was like, you know what? Okay, like he's just filming me during sex, but I had asked him multiple times if he could please send me the videos, so like he's not the only one who has videos of me naked. And he either ignored the question or was just like, no. So he's
How many
basically
times did you ask?
maybe like 3 or 4 times.
That's very odd, if true, extremely concerning. Wanting to film your girlfriend in that way and then not be willing to share it. I don't even know what the impulse for that would be, but it certainly doesn't feel right. My overall point, though, is it seems like the filming of these encounters, for better or for worse of either party, I suppose, were kind of an expected component of the relationship. Now, I think where it comes down to is there was no initial question of, hey, can I film this? It just started happening, which is basically as much as Katie, the other girl in question, details.
Literally every single time we had sex, he recorded it, and he never asked. Literally just one time I like looked back and I was like, oh, that's a phone.
So that's not amazing. For most of their relationship, that seemed to be an expected thing, though. And all I've combed through this, I've not been able to find an instance of either girl saying they said explicitly, hey, do not film me. Maybe you still consider that to be a crossing of boundaries that he didn't ask in the first place. It certainly seemed like it wasn't appreciated. I think at the end of the day, it kind of depends on the dynamic of the relationship and how much people felt like they were informed on the dynamic there, which it sounds like neither of these people felt like they were properly informed of how the dynamic of that situation and that relationship was supposed to play out. The heftier claim, though, is about his level of roughness in these encounters.
I don't want to get into anything illegal, but during, our sessions, he was very rough. He would choke and hit me in the face. I don't think anyone he knew in real life knew about this.
Okay, so again, on this claim, she's saying she doesn't want to allege that anything illegal happened, which is strange because she has said she has talked both to law enforcement and is talking to a lawyer. And again, is spewing all of this stuff on Kiwi farms, which to me doesn't sound like a good strategy, but I guess it's not my business what strategy she wants to employ. Point is, though, I think this is just some maybe legal ass covering. I'm not sure. I feel like the implication is bordering on something obviously prosecutable or suable or something some way or another.
Please provide proof of the misuse allegations, the allegation of X-rated impropriety, etc. I don't think it's that hard of an ask. It's hard because he was very careful about what he said over text, and again, I'm not alleging anything illegal, just that he would hit and choke because he was super gooner. Sort of normalized it in my head, but it was definitely not okay to do any of that.
Again, I will make the criticism that it's just very ambiguous, very vague what exactly is being alleged here. The sort of normalized it in my head comment really makes it sound like it was an expected, to some degree, communicated part of their relationship. There are a lot of people who are into rough things, okay, who are all adults. So what exactly are we alleging here? That's what I'm trying to nail down. Are we alleging that there was coercion? That's not really been expressed so far. As we get further into it, we'll get more comments that reveal more, but it kind of has to be coaxed out. What's more, text messages she provides as proof shows that there was open communication about this, acknowledgement of it. This also comes with the revelation that apparently she was bleeding after sessions, which is not supposed to happen. And very concerning, and that's something we're going to get into in more detail.
This might be too personal, but text about being hurt and bleeding after sessions, I really don't have much evidence because he was so careful and told me all of this was normal. And here are the text messages saying, like, we don't need to do it 3 times in one day, laughing crying emoji, or do it hard, I hurt and bleed. Well, if you don't want to have as much sessions, we don't gotta. We can do other things. Okay, I like doing other things too.
Now, a little bit further on, she makes the following comment: just gave into it after a while and told him I liked it, which makes this all really difficult. Really, at that point, all we're looking at in terms of this being a genuine allegation are, was there coercion involved? Well, correction. Was there coercion, and how did this transpire before she got to the point that she told him that he liked it? Now, she states something further on that he never initially asked about it. So similar to the situation with the filming of sessions, it seems it was a thing that kind of just started, and because there was never a explicit, hey, I don't like that, it was considered okay.
Was this due to him being either uncaring or aggressive during, or was this a health issue you had? I have no health issues that I know of, never bled during anything before. It was the aggression. Just gave into it after a while, and I told him I liked it, but I bled almost every single time. He would hit and choke without ever asking me if it was okay, and yeah, I'm thinking about it. Probably going to be one of my last posts on here when more stuff eventually comes out about him. Just want to warn y'all.
We never had any conversation really about like kinks or like what we were into, like other than like bare minimums of like yeah, I like I don't even, we never even had like any bare minimum talk about sex. It was just like, do you want to have sex? Okay.
Okay. And the few times you would say anything about like, that's too far, it was just like completely not like, did he react at all? Did he say anything? Was it just like,
not really?
ignored?
He'd be like, my bad, maybe like fix how he's acting for like 2 seconds and then do it again.
So we get kind of a variety of different dynamics explained about how these encounters would go, ranging from it hurt, but I didn't say anything about it, I eventually told him I liked it, to sometimes it would be really uncomfortable and I would say, hey, this is too much, and then he would kind of let off for a little bit, but then gradually, it would become more aggressive again. We also have screenshots of kind of a tacit communication in which she is pointing out, things are a little rough, and he says, yeah, I get things are a little rough, I'll lighten up a little bit.
You're really strong, because sometimes when you are on top of me holding my wrists, I feel like my wrists are going to break in half. I also feel like I've gotten used to the D, because at first it used to hurt so much, but now it's not so bad anymore. He says, my bad, I shouldn't be so aggressive, but you're also like 100 pounds, so that's another part of it.
Sacramento and Tom eventually breaks up. We get this exchange between Sacramento and a friend of hers, in which she says, hey, I just broke up with my boyfriend. I'm thinking about going to the police. Can you write a statement for me about what I had communicated to you before? And then we get the following statement from the friend. Sacramento shared with me one evening that during sexual transactions with Thomas, she would vocally exclaim that he was being too aggressive and that he was hurting her, and that he would disregard what she was saying and proceed to engage with the transaction, even after she pleaded for him to stop because she was in pain. So this is yet an entirely new testimony. Mind you, it's fully possible for all of these different dynamics to have taken place at one time during different sessions, but they're all very different dynamics. This one is probably the most aggressive of anything that's alleged in this entire video, because this is full-on R-word that YouTube doesn't like. Not retard, the less fun one. Now, in the interview, the interviewer does not bring up this specific claim to Sacramento, and I don't know why the fuck not. This is by far the strongest claim, and it kind of slipped through there. Katie, the other girl in question, talks about her very similar experiences, smacking, hitting, choking, and bleeding after sessions. Very concerning. That should not be happening. I don't think you should be putting a woman in that position. However, very, very ambiguous about the level of communication that was being had. She said she would tell him to lighten up and he would, quote, take that with a grain of salt, which is probably the most ambiguous way you could phrase that. If I had to interpret it based off of all the context we have thus far, it would probably be something similar to Sacramento's claim that he would lighten up a little bit, but then he'd kind of gradually ramp back up into being very violent and aggressive during the act of sex.
You had sex with him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And during that, he was like violent, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of like when things really started piecing together to me that I was like, wait, I think I am a victim right now. Like something's not right here. And that's when I started like voicing my concern more to him too. It like in the bedroom and being like, can you not do that? And he kind of would just like take everything with a grain of salt.
So the state of affairs, essentially, as Sacramento eventually details it, is that there was never permission asked to engage in this level of roughness, and there was also never an explicit statement or an explicit conversation saying, I don't like this level of roughness. So that leaves a lot of questions about what the state of communication was and who's culpable for what.
He would just start like hitting you, like slapping you, like in the face?
Yeah, during sex. Yeah, he never discussed it with me that this was going to be a thing. He would just start.
So just
doing
no
it.
warning, he just started slapping you in the face.
Yes.
Did you like tell him like I'm not okay with this?
I told him a couple times, I was like, why did you slap me? And he's like, oh, like, I thought you liked that. And I was like, I don't know, like, not really my thing. And then he would continue to do it to me after the fact.
Okay. Did you ever like explicitly say no in certain terms, don't do that?
No, because usually it was in the middle of sex and then he would be covering my mouth, so I couldn't say no.
Okay. Oh, so he's like covering your mouth. Did you ever like try to like break away from his grip?
Yeah, and he would just like pull me harder.
Okay. But then after that, you would like complain to friends privately, but you didn't like sit them down and say like, I'm not okay with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you could make a case, though, that it's not necessary for there to be an explicit sit-down conversation on this subject for Tom to know she doesn't want this. But we also have testimony of something that does sound like explicit denial, i.e. the statement written out by her friend saying she shouted out, pleading with him to stop, and he continued going in the moment. So we're left with kind of a confusing narrative. But at the end of the day, I think we do have two individuals who are both alleging something tantamount to abuse. Now, as I said before, Turkey Tom has not come out with a statement about this. If he were to do so, I would demand that that statement come with some pretty strong, explicit statements in return, meaning not generic platitudes kind of smoothing the situation over, but refutation of specific claims, actually coming out with his full chest and saying, no, this did not happen, that did not happen, that's a lie, this is a lie, whatever. Biggest case in point, again, to me, would be the friend's testimony that she had been in a sexual encounter with him, pleading for him to stop, and he kept going. That is the strongest claim of this entire bunch. Because if that's true, that's among the most important things for us to nail down the authenticity of. Not whether he's bisexual, not whether Destiny was wearing a butt plug at one point, not whether he was shit-talking Nicholas Diorio behind his back. All of that stuff really just gets in the way of us figuring out the details of this story. And in my opinion, the claims are bold enough that we should be kind of casting aside all of those other things and just focusing on what's actually important here. Another detail to note, there is a document being passed around that is supposedly written by Kai, who is an ex of Turkey Tom, basically vouching for his character. It's a little bit of a mixed bag of a document. I'm seeing a lot of people posting on Twitter about it. I'm seeing people making some YouTube videos about it. I have not been able to verify that she actually fucking wrote this. She may very well have. From what I understand, she has zero social media presence, so I don't know how to verify the authenticity of this. The farthest back I can trace it is just some random account on Twitter posted a Google Drive link. So because I haven't been able to get to the bottom of that, I won't include that in this video. If I'm able to confirm that and feel it's relevant, maybe I'll follow up or something. Thought I would at least mention it. Anyway, I know I've really been putting the claims in this video under a microscope, but that's all by design. I didn't want to softball anybody in this situation because that's what I'm seeing a lot of online. On Perk 30's video, one comment that stands out to me, heartwarming, the guy you didn't like without a reason gives you a reason, which I understand that's like a popular sentiment, and I understand the sentiment, but I feel like that sort of vibes-based investigating is kind of, for whatever reason, has kind of infiltrated this particular case. The purpose of this video has been to cut through a lot of the bullshit, only focus on the claims that I feel are actually relevant, for the purpose of bolstering the ones that are actually relevant. I hope you feel that I've done that. If you feel like I overlooked anything, let me know in the comments, and if I need to make an update, I will make an update. Anyway, love you. Take care.